Alright, tonight we're going to be talking about something chiropractic, okay? One of the things that I see quite often in my practice are curves, right? Our spines have curves in them to act like springs, so when we run, jump, and play, that spine, because of the curves that are in there, will kind of compress and then release. So just like we have suspension parts on our cars, so if we go over bumps, the car doesn't fall apart. That's why we have curves in our spine. So those are good curves. Now there's another set of curves that are bad for us, and I call those compensation curves. So I see compensation curves all the time on my patients' x-rays, and what that means is the body, because of something, has adapted a new normal. It has been traumatized, or something just hasn't developed right in their body. So instead of having a nice straight spine from the front and then a nice curved spine from the side, what we see is we actually see curves where they don't belong. Now why is that important? If a spine is curving in the wrong direction, it's going to create a lot of pain, okay? One of the things that I do quite often for my patients after I take x-rays and measure them and look for degeneration and disc disease and muscle spasms and inflammation in the intestines, after I look at all that, the next thing I always check is leg length, okay? So we have two legs, and under normal circumstances, they should be equal, right? Just like a goalpost, it should be equal on both sides. That way, if we're standing on equal stilts, then our pelvis, which is our lower back, will sit nice and sturdy, and then we won't get those bad curves in our spine that create a lot of pain. So I recently just posted on my Facebook page a really interesting patient that came in. Now, she just had her right knee replaced. So obviously with any sort of surgery, they're going to be cutting and splicing and gluing and hammering, all sorts of stuff while you're asleep, right? And typically a good surgeon, right, will take into account how much bone they're taking off the joint, because they know how much of the artificial stuff that they're going to be replacing it with. Sometimes not everybody is that precise. So what happens? What are the side effects of a surgeon replacing a joint and not taking the right measurements? Is one of my patients right here. Okay, so she's in her 70s, had arthritic knee, went in to get it replaced, and now she has 6 other painful areas of her body. Okay, so she traded one area of pain for 6 new ones. So let me show you what the outcome of her surgery did to the rest of her spine. So here in this image right here, you can see I drew a green line right across. That green line represents the height of her right hip joint. So right here you can see her right femur right there. If you follow that line across, you should run into the top of the left femur. But look at the difference in the distance between her left hip joint and her right hip joint. Remember, this is the side she had her knee replaced, so that pushed it way, way high. Again, just like a flat tire on a car, if all the air is let out of that left hip, everything falls that way. And that's why you can see her pelvis is falling towards the left side, because there's not enough support to keep it level. So not only is she having pains in her butt, but look at what it's doing to her lumbar spine. So it's the leaning tower of Pisa, basically. So all of the weight is being pushed on just one side of her spine, where the other side of her spine really can't do much because it's not level anymore. It's like your house. You got a bad foundation and it cracks, the house is going to fall towards that short side. So this is why she came in after her surgery. She was having so much pain, because all the muscles are constantly contracting to try to make this unstable area stable again. So I said to her, I said, you're off by a lot. I kind of want to see what a lot looks like with a different object. Obviously, I do measurements, so it's all digital, so I know exactly the difference. But I wanted to show to her how much a lot was, okay? And so I got this book. This book has served me for many purposes. It's never been a leg leveler, but in this case it was, okay? So this, I had her stand on this, and that's what I did here in this picture. I put the book down, I put my shoes on top, just so you guys can see how outrageously off the surgeon was. when it came to her hip replacement or her knee replacement. So in this x-ray, I had her standing on this book, left foot on the book, right foot flat on the ground, right? You would think, man, that would be uncomfortable. That would be way off, right? It would make you kind of fall over. But for her, it was her absolute normal. Like, she felt awesome standing on the book because everything, I reshot that x-ray and I was able to, just with a book, lift that left leg up so that her pelvis is nice and level. And this is a half a second after, right? Took it without the book, had her stand on the book, so this is the same day. And then you can see that the pelvis came back into alignment, which straightened up her spine, okay? Now this was caused by a bad surgery. I'm saying bad because I don't think that they didn't take the necessary steps to make sure that they weren't causing other issues. Hello? Yeah, you may have helped her with her knee, but now you screwed up everything else because she's walking around like a pirate. Ba-boom, ba-boom. She has one short leg, right? A little peg leg. I can't glue this to the bottom of her foot, but we are fixing the situation, so don't worry, I know how to fix it. And you don't have to step on a book, okay? So this was caused because of her surgery. So if you guys, you know, there's always risks involved with surgery, and throwing your anatomical position out of alignment is one of those things, okay? So if you have a hip replacement and or you know a knee, anything like that, come in, let us check out your alignment.
I even needed one for a little while.
Yep, so Megan, she had her spine fused. My wife, she's fused from T2 to L2 because of severe scoliosis. And when she got that surgery done, she needed a support in leveling out her pelvis until I was able to fix her through chiropractic work and other means like that. Okay, so she's another example of how surgery can change the alignment of your car. So, you know, you guys out there or gals that have big trucks and you like to throw those big mud tires on there, you got to get alignment because what did you do? You changed the environment and now you have to kind of bring everything back to center. Otherwise, you're going to be driving down the road sideways, right? Okay. So if you ever do something to your body, you got to make sure that there isn't other consequences. And this is a wonderful example of that. Let me get rid of this one and we'll move on to another one. Okay. Here's my record holder. Yes, bigger leg length difference than this book. Okay, so she was 36 millimeters off. You take a look at this x-ray. This was her before. You can see that it's here on the left side. Everything fell that way. Pulled her spine way out of alignment. Okay, so she's younger, so she's way more flexible. But you can see just because she has a anatomical short left leg, so she didn't have surgery, she was born this way. So when our skeletons mature, we have our fingers crossed that they mature at the same rate on both sides. But the human body does interesting things sometimes, and in her case, her left leg didn't keep up with her right leg. Okay, so she's walking around with this short side on the left side, and it's bending her entire lower back out of position. Interesting information about this patient, she's a marathon runner. At least she wanted to be a marathon runner, but she could never quite finish the race because her back would hurt so bad after running that she literally had to give up. Even though she knew she had more conditioning in her, the physical pain was just so intense, and she's a little bitty girl. So, I mean, she's not like a 200-plus guy like me, where running is extremely impactful. She's like a little fairy. She just runs across the street.
Sherry
right?
says, I walk like a weeble most of the time. I can't read. It's behind the thing.
Yeah. So when I show these x-rays to people, they're like, I always kind of knew I was off, right? So in her case, super fit, small, no extra weight on her body whatsoever, and she was dying, right? She went to see other chiropractors, and they didn't do anything but focused on that. Okay, that's not the root issue, right? Oh, it looks like you have scoliosis. We need to get you on a 20-visit plan to try to straighten that curve out. No, dum-dums. You got to fix this short left leg. That'll raise this up and make that misalignment go away. How do I know that? Because I did it. So this is her after. So she needed a lot of therapy, and she needed what I knew to help correct this with her. So we got her squared up, so her pelvis, her leg length levels are now equal. And look what happens magically. The side effect, the compensation curve goes away, because did I adjust that out of her spine? No. Okay. So you got to see, there's the wrong way of thinking about things, and then there's the right way of thinking about things. So she actually, at her last marathon, she finished and she took a picture and signed it and gave it to me as a thank you. And so it's really cool to be able to see long-term success with these patients. All right, the last one I'm going to show you tonight is of my daughter, okay? So we talked about an older lady, 70s, knee replacement. Now we're talking about a young female in her mid-20s and 30s, athlete, just born with 2 different leg lengths, okay? And how we were able to still get the same outcome with her. Now I'm going to show you what was she, 10 years old at this time, 12, 10 or 12?
Yeah, at least 10.
Okay. So this is my oldest daughter, her x-rays. So she was at elementary school before 2020 happened, and she was running and playing on the field, and she came home and said, "Dad, my back hurts really bad." And I was like, "I'm a chiropractor, your back can't hurt," right? You take some pride in your own kids. So what did I do? Treated her just like everybody else, came in, got some x-rays. You can see I drew this red line right here just to help to show you how much that spine was leaning out of alignment. So yeah, no kidding. She's running around like this. That's going to really stress out that curve there. Okay? So what we did then was I was able to apply what I know, get that left leg to come up to match the right, which took that compensation curve right out of her back. Okay? So again, 10, 12-year-old girl experiencing this firsthand. So instead of scoliosis screenings at elementary school, you guys remember doing that, where you had to bend over and do a dive,
Still
and then
important.
they ran the fingers down your spine, right? That is important, as Megan said, but having your children's leg lengths checked it's more prevalent. It's more out there. A lot of people, I would say about 80 to 90% of my patients, because of chronic back pain and knee pain and hip pain, it's because of this, because nobody looks for it, okay? So you can see that in the beginning of her therapy, we were able to get that left leg to match the right, but her body had developed her muscles to hold it in this position. So when you start changing the areas, you also got to see that her pelvis is no longer tilted one way or another, but it's rotated, so it's spinning within her, okay? And that's because her muscles are trying to hold on to this old position, so it does need a little bit of time to adapt to the new environment. So with chiropractic adjustments and exercises and stretches and rehab, we were able to then retrain her joints and her muscles to accept her new position. So in the third image you see here, we got the pelvis nice and level. We got that compensation curve out of her spine, and now she's doing great. With
now
children,
she doesn't even need a heel lift.
Okay, now she doesn't wear one, because after this we followed up again about 6 months to see, because she's still growing, she may not need that extra support that we gave her. Okay, so again, especially with children, as their skeleton matures, these things come and go. Most of the time they stay though, okay? So she was fortunate enough to have a dad that knew what to do in this case, right? And it's not very common knowledge, so that's why I'm sharing that with you guys tonight, is if you've had this pestering pain and you've always kind of felt like you were walking funny, or if one side of your pant leg wears out faster than the other side, you may have a short leg, okay? So if that's you, give me a call, come in, let's take a basic x-ray. I can learn a lot about your body through x-ray, and then we'll go from there, okay? But this is super important, because if you want long-term results, you always have to go after the root cause. If I was to chase those compensation curves, I would have a lot of angry patients, because as soon as they stood up and they stood on those unequal legs, everything comes out of alignment. And a lot of people out there, they don't trust chiropractors because they didn't treat the root cause. Okay, they just chased after symptoms, and a compensation curve is one of those symptoms that they chase after. But I showed you 3 examples how going after the root cause is always the best route. Okay, these patients will always carry their adjustments because I gave them the proper support in the first place. So thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you later.